My last video about an honor band had a lot of positive comments, so here's another one. The first clip was just the rehearsal venue. We sort of lined our cases on the sides. The honor band actually had a party at it where the footage looks really fun. There's a lot of people here, and this was sort of just where we performed. It was really big. Very, like 4 layers. It was crazy. Officially, it was called the National Honor Band. I think there were over 25 states represented in about 80 people, if I'm not mistaken. The band, I think it's like relatively unknown. I hadn't really heard of it until about a year ago before I auditioned, but it's sort of on the rise now because it's basically the only National Honor Band. There's another one that was more popular, but it sort of, COVID happened and it hasn't really come back yet. The conductor was Lieutenant Colonel. I'm not really sure what those mean, but he's a military guy. So there's a lot of military tunes. I put timestamps in the description if I didn't forget. Lists like what pieces are where. I didn't really record all the pieces. I just included the ones in this video that I thought were sort of the most interesting. Some of the faster ones come up later if you sort of want to skip around, but I think it's all like pretty interesting. This first piece was non-military, but it had a lot of fun runs, but also a lot of counting. It was either I was like counting really bad or I was just spamming my I don't know if I should call it spamming. I was basically just banging keys really quickly. It'll take a little bit. Oh, come on. You'll notice when I'm just like clicking keys a lot and I'm just kind of just a little lost. I'm a little confused. But yeah, I thought this piece was pretty okay. I think it was a grade 6. It's called like Some Assembly Required. I never heard of it before this. I think the conductor chose a lot of relatively new stuff, so I thought that was cool. I thought it was really fun. This next clip it was a trombone guy. I think it was day 2 where we went to this sort of like large like convention center, and it was everybody who was at the sort of convention, because the honor band was just like a piece of the actual convention, and everybody pulled up here to go watch the guy, and he sounded really cool, and there were a lot of people, and I was very frightened because there were so many people. Sorry this is kind of moving so quickly. But this next clip is of shout out to Dylan Huang for noticing me filming. He said hi. And that's kind of the main reason I'm not sure about filming these sorts of videos where I just like record an honor band or something. It's because it's kind of awkward to record in public, and there's like 80 people in these groups. You're recording copyrighted music most of the time, so it's probably kind of questionable whether you can make a video out of this. I'm not really too scared of copyright because I'm pretty sure on YouTube they just claim the video and take all their ad revenue, and I don't really make money from these, so that's fine by me. But yeah, it is a bit awkward when you just have a phone in front of you. It sort of looks like you're disengaged, and I feel like it's a bit disrespectful in a rehearsal. So especially a lot of these videos, they were just sort of near the end where we're just kind of checking that everything's good, rather than when we're trying to learn and you're just like have your phone out on your stand and it's like, dude, what are you up to, man? Like, come on, let's lock in. So something really interesting about this band was, like I said earlier, it's kind of like a convention and there are a lot of people. So basically this honor band is called like the National Honor Band for high school. So it was looked up to a lot by a lot of the people there. I'd imagine if I'm invited to a band area and there's like a big honor band, like anybody can audition, I think that's really cool. And I kind of felt that like during this time, I didn't really personally interact with a lot of the people who were just there for fun or like the kids, but there were, I think, 2 or 3 times where you'd see a parent and they'd be like, oh, what are you in? I'm like, oh, I'm in the honor band. And they're like, whoa, that's crazy, man. Like they're like really surprised. They're like, wow, you must be like really good. And so I guess, man, I don't think it really, I guess it did go to my head in the form of just trying to feel like a role model and trying to present myself in a good light to all these people. There was like a whole dress code rule where you had to wear professional clothing. Luckily, I only own khaki pants, so that was great for me. But wearing buttoned up shirts was a bit abnormal. But yeah, it felt a lot like being a role model, and it was one of the first times I really felt that way. I guess I feel that sometimes when I might be helping a middle school student like work on clarinet, but this was especially crazy because I think just if you look up to someone that's a high schooler and you're like younger, then you're like, okay, this person just has more like more like age than I do. They have some more life experience. But if you're in a situation like this where you look up to someone, they're like in the National Honor Band, it's like, wow, dude, you are like really good. That was sort of a new experience for me. I feel like, I guess people do tell me that people have like, I've had times where people look up to me and they're like, oh, I really think you're really good. I'm like, oh, thank you. But this is the first time where the whole perception that other people had of me was just like being this really good guy, and I was like, oh, that's kind of crazy. So that was kind of odd. We're off to another piece. I think this was a Timothy Marr piece. I forgot what it's called. I'll put it in the description. His whole rehearsal piece was very, very much just layering. Lots of tension in the music. I thought the drums were really cool in this, but yeah, this is just a really cool build-up sequence. I thought this piece has a lot of just like being really quiet and slow, and this part where it's just like building and building and building the tension, I think is very sick. And you can kind of see at the end of the clip when the conductor cuts it off, I'm like, oh man, that's annoying. I thought that was generally pretty cool. This next clip, shout out to the oboe, by the way, because the oboes were just so good in this. I don't think I ever heard an oboe mess up here. Every time they play it, they just nailed it, and it just sounded really good. And that would happen with a lot of instruments too. I felt a lot of imposter syndrome during this trip because, you know, if you're in that national honor band, you're like, damn, nation, and I am not in a small state, you know. I'm not in, I don't know, what's a small state? Maybe Switzerland with lower population. In the United States, like national honor band of the United States, like that's pretty crazy, man. Probably the only one better would probably be the maybe the UK or something like that. At any rate, I felt like I had to play really well because everybody else was. Yeah, it was the first time I really felt like I was surrounded by people who were I felt were much better than me, and I felt like I was trying to play catch up a lot. I think in reality that we're probably like similar to the same level, but yeah, man, I just hear people play really well, and it was sort of infectious. It made me want to try and play as best I could as well, and that was pretty cool. So this next clip, it's an actual march. I'd never heard of this piece before, but it's the Gallant 7 March by John Philip Sousa. What an iconic guy. I didn't really do marches in my high school because my band director was like a French horn guy, and he didn't really play them. So it was really cool just this whole experience having a lieutenant, I don't even know what this word means, but just a military guy running the rehearsal was very sick because I think we played like 8 or 9 pieces, most of them being marches, and it was the first time I really did. And the bass clarinet parts for marches are pretty good. They're pretty similar to the euphonium parts. They're pretty moving, they're sort of the lower line, but they sound cool, and I really enjoy them. I guess we'll talk about something else cool from this. It's the first time I ever traveled alone on a plane, which was pretty scary. I remember when I was getting there, I'm going from California to Illinois, so it's pretty far. I think it was like a 5 or 6 hour plane ride, and I thought I'd get a lot of homework done, and then I looked out the window and I was already there, and it was like 2 a.m. and I'm like, crap. It's kind of funny. I just listened to a good podcast, the I Procrastinate podcast, teaching me about procrastination. I find that pretty good. It's by Tim Pitchell. If you're interested, I probably won't link it, but if you just look up Tim Pitchell I Procrastinate podcast, I don't know if it's still running. It was very good. I think it's kind of old as well. And then even on the way back was crazy because we did the concert, and then we're like, all right guys, we're gonna stay up all night because your flights were at like 4 or 5 a.m. But then we all like accidentally fell asleep an hour before, and we had to wake up. We were so late. It was so bad. We hadn't even packed yet. We had to just get the heck out of there. It was terrible to get home, and I was just sleeping on the flight. I had like a layover. I slept on during the layover, so like an alarm. I had the luggage between my feet, just trying to survive, man. It was tough. When I got home, I just slept the entire day. What even was a sleep schedule at that point? I felt like I slept enough on the plane. I think a lot of sleeping is just trying to stay awake during times when you do feel a bit tired, just so that when you do fall asleep, you get the full benefit, and when you wake up, you're fully awake. And probably just doing more physical fitness like helps with sleep because your body's like moving more, you have more blood flowing, versus like sleeping. I think it's just because you need to like focus your brain and stuff. I'm not a sleep guy. Obviously from my tendencies on this trip. I guess back to the music. This piece, the Gallant 7 March. I said I liked marches a lot just because they had good parts. This whole thing had some rhythms that were like pretty fast and pretty high as well. I think there was some stuff in the altissimo register, and the conductor really focused a lot on having very good dynamics, being very big when you're big and being very small when you're small, because you know, one of the things he said was to play really big, you have to get really small all around it to make it matter more. And I think the other thing was precision meets accuracy. Something about being loud through precision, not volume. I mean, especially when you hear music, I think, especially for me, I care a lot more about the precision of the notes and how precise they are for how it appeals to me, or like just how it feels as an audience member versus how loud or how soft they are. Like the precision matters a lot more. Last piece is Stars and Stripes. Surprisingly, after playing bass clarinet for I think 6 years, this was the first time I'd ever played Stars and Stripes by John Philip Sousa. And I know this piece is very iconic. It's played for a lot of military stuff. And yeah, here I am playing it at it was my last ever honor band of high school, and it felt sort of like a culmination. It's pretty cool to do nationals as your last one. It's pretty cool to be finished with high school and moving on to new things. And so I remember when we played this piece in the actual concert, like I started kind of tearing up because it's sort of the end, man. It's the culmination. It's goodbye to high school band. I know a lot of people, when they finish, especially just high school band, they never pick up their instruments again. And, I think a lot of the people you meet, the bands you're in, a lot of those people you might never see again. And obviously, you try and reach out to them to try and keep in touch. But yeah, for a lot of it, it's sort of the end. It's a book end. It's sort of the end of a chapter, end of an era. And yeah, I mean, at this point, I'm 6 months out, done with high school. It feels so long ago now. But this piece really reminds me of the culmination of what it all got to. I know, like, when I was in my freshman year and I really hated clarinet and everything, and I just sit inside playing video games all day, I really never thought I would get here. And so being in this environment, able to get into like a national band and having the privilege to travel out and meet all of these really professional people was something I'm really grateful for. And it was really cool. Commenting on this piccolo, it sounds like one piccolo, but it's actually 5. And it sounds really good. I remember during the concert, it sounded just so solid, man. It was so good, dude. I know piccolo, it's really hard to get in tune, and these piccolos are just so in tune with each other. It just sounded so great, and the dynamic contrast of everybody else was really good. You can hear me, like, I was trying to play quiet, but you could still hear me in the video. And then it goes big boom, where it repeats back to the ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, whatever. And then the next time it comes around to that piccolo part, it's all super big, but you can still hear the piccolos because there are 5 of them, which is a bit too, I don't know, I guess maybe it's too many. It was only like one person that was assigned piccolo, so it was kind of crazy that 5 people were out there. But yeah, it was peak. It was very exciting. Here we go. It should come up in a little bit. Yeah, just the tension building towards the end. You see my friend in the right over there, his head is like bopping out. He is having a great time. Love you, Dylan. Yeah, hear the ending of this? Like, this was what sort of moved me. It's what made me feel like, I guess it kind of shows the power of music, or whatever cringy term you count that, about how music kind of moves you. And you can feel like a lot of emotion out of it, and you can apply meaning to it. Like Stars and Stripes, for a lot of people, probably means a lot about country pride and being good in the country, rather than I don't know, being the bookend. But for me, it was kind of the bookend. It was the end of high school bands, end of honor bands. Honor bands are just really fun. I really enjoyed them. So this is the end for this honor band. I sort of treated this video like I was talking to a friend. I know the last 2 videos, I didn't really like them. I sort of felt like I was playing the game. So hopefully if you stuck around this long, you found this video to be more interesting. A good way to phrase it would be like, it felt more as if it was a real video where I'm talking to you as a human, versus like some dude playing the YouTube game trying to get you to press the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.